It was 11:51 p.m. The air in the cellar was cold, thick with the smell of fermenting grapes. I was checking the temperature gauges on the stainless steel tanks. My hands stained purple from the day's work. My phone buzzed on the metal table, vibrating against a wrench. It was a group text. From my mother. Susan. I swiped it open, my eyes blurry from exhaustion. The message was short. Tegan. Your father, Morgan, and I have agreed. You don't need to come to Morgan's engagement dinner. In fact, you are no longer a part of this family. I stared at the screen, the words blurring. The chill of the cellar suddenly felt like it was inside me. And then, a few seconds later, a small heart icon appeared next to my mother's text. My sister, Morgan, had loved the message. I didn't cry. I didn't text back. Why I didn't beg. The anger this time wasn't hot. It was sharp and cold. It was clarifying. I walked out of the cellar, my boots echoing on the concrete floor. I went straight to my office, the small room that overlooked the dark vineyard, and opened my laptop. The screen flared to life, illuminating the time. 12:03 a.m. 12 minutes. That's all it took to be erased. I opened a single file on my desktop, one that was password protected. A simple spreadsheet titled Heritage Support. It wasn't a budget. It was a balance sheet. Row 1, annual property tax payment, Michael's estate. A pending transfer for $85,000. Scheduled to go out in the morning to save their legacy estate from foreclosure. Again, my finger moved to the trackpad. Click. Cancel payment. Row 2, monthly transfer, Morgan's startup. A recurring payment of $5,000 to fund my sister's career in finance, which was really just a title for being unemployed. Click. Cancel payment. Row 3, membership dues, father's legacy wine club. A $1,200 charge for my father, Michael, to drink other people's wine while criticizing mine. Click. Cancel membership. In less than 10 minutes, I had cut every financial thread holding their pristine, perfect illusion of a family together. This wasn't revenge. It was accounting. Have you ever felt like the invisible one in your own family? Let me know your story down in the comments. To understand what I did, you have to understand who I was to them. In my family, you were one of two things: a success or a disappointment. My sister Morgan, with her finance job, was a success. My father, Michael, obsessed with his legacy estate, was a success. I, on the other hand, was the one who walked away from a prestigious MBA to, as my father so elegantly put it, play in the dirt. My glorified agricultural hobby was Athelstone Vineyard. What they didn't know is that Athelstone Vineyard, the place they dismissed as a cute little project, cleared 7 figures in profit last year. What they didn't know is that the wine they served at their own exclusive parties, the bottles they bragged about, were often mine, sourced through third-party labels. I wasn't just the family disappointment. I was their silent, invisible investor. 6 months ago, when my father's legacy estate was on the verge of foreclosure, who paid the $85,000 property tax bill at the last second? It wasn't Morgan. It was me. And my sister's brilliant startup, that was also me. $5,000 a month, wired into her account, for the last 6 months, so she could maintain the illusion of success. $30,000 in total. I wasn't doing it out of kindness. I see that clearly now. I was doing it because I had fallen into a psychological trap. It's what I now call the conditional acceptance trap. For my entire life, my family's love came with a price tag. And that price was success. But it had to be their definition of success. The right degree. The right job. The right address. My passion. My vineyard. My actual, tangible success. It was worthless to them because it didn't fit their narrative. So I tried to pay for their approval in the only language they understood: money. I thought, foolishly, that if I could secretly prop up the one thing they valued, their precious legacy, that maybe, one day, they would finally respect me. I see it now. I wasn't just paying their bills. I was paying for a subscription to a family that had already expired. And that night, At 11:51 p.m., I finally realized my compassion was a resource they had overdrafted for the last time. I slept for 4 hours. I woke up not to an alarm, but to the vibration of my phone buzzing itself off the nightstand. It was 7 a.m. The sun was just starting to hit the vines, and the vultures were circling. I had 14 missed calls and 9 new text messages, all from my family. The first one I opened was from Morgan. My sister. It read, "You're being completely dramatic. Mom was just stressed about the engagement. Why did you lock my card? I had an emergency." An emergency. I pictured her at a boutique, trying to buy shoes for the engagement dinner I was now uninvited to. The entitlement was so thick, I could almost taste it. I didn't reply. Next. A voicemail from my mother. Susan. Her voice wasn't apologetic. It was sharp, clipped, and furious. "Tegan, I don't know what game you think you're playing, but you have created an absolute mess. Your father is beside himself. You need to call us immediately and fix what you've done." Fix what I'd done. Not what she had done. Not what they had agreed upon in their little family tribunal. I deleted the voicemail. Then, I saw a notification from Facebook. My father, Michael, had tagged me in a public post. My stomach tightened. I opened the app. He had posted a picture of the old family estate, the one I had just saved from foreclosure. The caption was written for the whole community to see. "It's a sad day when some children forget the value of heritage. It's truly heartbreaking when they forget the family that raised them and gave them everything." I read it twice. The hypocrisy was breathtaking. The heritage he was talking about was built on my secret payments. The family he was mourning was the one that had disowned me less than 8 hours ago. I stared at the 3 messages: Morgan's entitlement, Susan's blame, and Michael's public manipulation. I looked for even a hint of remorse. An apology. A simple, "We went too far." There was nothing. They weren't shocked by what they had done. They were shocked I had stopped playing along. They weren't angry that they had hurt me. They were angry that the ATM was broken. I didn't call them back. I let their texts, their voicemails, and their public shaming hang in the air, unanswered. I took a deep breath, the crisp morning air filling my lungs, smelling of damp earth and fermenting grapes. I didn't feel panic. I felt precise. I didn't call my mother. I didn't call my sister. I called David. David isn't our family lawyer. He's my corporate lawyer. He's the man who negotiated my distribution deals and finalized the purchase of Athelstone. He's a shark, and he understands transactions, not emotions. He picked up on the second ring. "Tegan. Good morning. Everything all right with the spring bottling?" "Everything's fine." "David," I said, my voice steady, betraying nothing. "I have a new task for you. I need you to draft a formal debt collection notice." There was a brief pause. "Go on," he said, his tone shifting from friendly to professional. "The recipients are Michael and Susan," I said, dropping their parental titles. "I need to recover a debt of $85,000, paid on their behalf for their estate property taxes, and a second debt of $30,000, provided as a personal loan to Morgan, co-signed by Susan. That's $115,000, David said. "All business." I could hear him typing. "That's correct?" I said. "I want the notice to be formal. Send it certified mail. I want to give them 30 days to contact your office and establish a formal repayment plan." "And if they don't?" David asked. I looked out the window at the fields, at the ash soil plot in the distance. "Then you will begin proceedings to place a lien on their estate. The full $115,000. Plus your fees." This was no longer a family drama. This was a professional escalation. I wasn't the disowned daughter anymore. I was a creditor. And I was done being silent. David called back 2 hours later. The usual professional calm in his voice was gone. He sounded stunned. "Tegan, we have a problem. Or, rather, they have a problem. A much bigger one than $115,000. I sat up in my chair. "What did you find?" "I started the lien paperwork," he said, "which means pulling the full title history on your father's estate. And I found something strange." Something about the land itself? Do you know anything about a worthless, rocky plot on the northern border of the property? My blood went cold. He used to call it the ash heap. He said it was unplantable. Right, David said. Well, 5 years ago. He didn't just sell it. He transferred it to a Shell LLC for the sum of $1. I stayed silent. I knew this. That Shell company was who I'd bought the land from, paying a premium for it 2 years later. Here's the problem, Tegan, David continued. That land wasn't technically his to sell. It was part of a trust left by your grandmother, to be passed down. The transfer document required 2 signatures, his and the trustee's. But looking at the signature from the trustee, it doesn't match any other legal document. It's a forgery, and it looks a hell of a lot like your father's handwriting. I couldn't breathe. My hand gripped the edge of my desk. The entire story reformed in my head in a single, sickening flash. The reason he was so desperate to sell it. The reason he called it worthless. The reason he never questioned where I'd found the land for my vineyard. David, I said, my voice barely a whisper. That's the land. That's where Athelstone Vineyard is sitting right now. I bought that land from his shell company. The line was silent for a full 10 seconds. David, the shark, was processing the blood in the water. Oh, Mikael, he finally said. What did you do? I stood up, looking out the window at the rows of vines. My vines, growing strong and healthy from the ash heap. My father hadn't just underestimated the land. He had stolen it. He had stolen it from his own mother's trust. Hidden it? And now, I, the family, failure was the sole proprietor of the one piece of evidence that could send him to prison. This was no longer about debt. This was about a crime. 1 week later, the certified letter had been signed for, and the silence that followed was deafening. Until Thursday. I was in my private tasting room, the one overlooking the valley, reviewing a new label design when the door flew open. Not pushed, but slammed against the wall. It was my mother. Susan, but not the version I knew. The perfectly composed, socially armored woman was gone. Her hair was a mess, falling out of its usual sleek style. Her eyes were red and wild. Her mascara smudged down her cheeks. She was wearing a silk blouse I recognized, now hopelessly wrinkled. Tegan. Thank God, she gasped, rushing toward me, her hands grasping at the air. You have to stop this. You have to do something. I didn't stand up. I remained perfectly still, watching her. They're taking everything, she shrieked, her voice cracking. The bank. They're foreclosing on the estate. They're using words. Criminal fraud. Forgery. Tegan. Your father? Mikael. They're saying he could go to prison. She was fully crying now. Ugly. Desperate, sobs. Morgan is a complete wreck. She hasn't left her room. You've ruined us. After everything we gave you. This is how you repay us. You have to call them. Tell them it's a mistake. I let the silence stretch, filled only by her ragged breathing. Slowly, I reached for a bottle on the table. It was a heavy bottle. Dark glass. With no label. I picked up a wine glass, turned, and began to pour a deep, almost black, red. The sound echoed in the quiet room. Do you see this wine? Mother, I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She looked at me, confused by the question. What? What are you talking about? Did you hear me? I held the glass up to the light. It's our new reserve. We're calling it the Ash Soil Reserve. It's from a very special plot of land. The grapes. They're extraordinary. They're grown on that worthless ash heap that Father stole from my grandmother. The one I bought back? Her face went pale. The last bit of color drained from her. What? What did you say? I set the glass down, untouched. I walked to my desk, picked up a single folded document, a copy of David's findings, the one detailing the forgery, and walked back to her. I held it out. You said I had to do something. I said, my voice as cold and clear as the glass in my hand. I already did. She stared at the paper, her hand trembling, refusing to take it. Goodbye, Susan. I turned, walked past her, and pulled the heavy oak door of the tasting room shut. I didn't slam it. I closed it firmly, and the solid click of the latch locking in place was the only sound as I walked away, leaving her, and her pleas, locked on the other side. The legal battle was fast. The kind of swift, brutal efficiency that only undeniable proof of forgery can bring. The estate, my father's precious heritage, was sold at a public auction to pay the debts. The bank, the creditors, and finally, me? I was there. I was the only bidder. Not to save it, not to keep it. I bought it. And in the following week, I liquidated it. I broke the estate into parcels and sold every single piece. Every last remnant of their hollow legacy. I kept only one thing, my grandmother's old, dilapidated greenhouse, which sat on the edge of my property. The next morning, I stood in the vineyard as the sun began to rise. The light was pale, pink, catching the dew on the leaves. It was quiet, peaceful. I took out my phone. I opened the heritage support spreadsheet one last time. I looked at the rows of numbers. The $85,000. The $5,000. The $1,200. All the payments. All the desperate, invisible attempts I had made to be loved. My finger hovered over the screen. Then, I hit delete. And again, delete. I watched the file vanish. That night, for the first time in years, I slept through until morning. No guilt. No noise. Just silence. Some people think revenge is a firestorm, an act of destruction. But I've learned something new. Something out here in the dirt. I've learned the justice of the sower. True revenge isn't about destroying what they built. It's about building something beautiful. Something lasting. From the very ashes they threw away. It's about creating something so full of life